My name is TASHEEKIA Perry Harris, and I am the founder of Crowning Daughters for Success Enrichment Program, a program that creates confidence without compromise. Welcome back to Empowerment Time. Today, we're going to be talking about unlearning the things that are not beneficial to us and not beneficial to others. It's important that we live a life that we leave little openings for change. And it is so important that we understand that everything that we have been taught is not what we should apply. And as you get older and you learn, my grandmother had a very wise saying, when you know right, you do right. So in order to know right, you have to always be open for someone to teach you right. I believe God has given us internal thermostats to gauge what is truly right and what is truly wrong. Sometimes we obey and sometimes we do not obey. But in this life, especially with all of the hurt, all of the disappointment, and all of the disparities that Blacks are facing, it is time that we all come together and unlearn some things. So what does it mean to unlearn something? It literally means to put off one's knowledge or memory. A famous quote by Paul, it says, "Old things passed away. Behold, all things become new." So there are some old things, some old habits that we have become accustomed to. We've become accustomed to thinking. We've become accustomed to doing. We've become accustomed to treating others a certain way. And these are the things, if it's not productive for us or another individual, we have to be leaders enough to say, just maybe I need to unlearn what has gotten me through school. Because I have learned that when someone slapped me, I immediately slap them back. When someone talks about me, I immediately talk back about them. When someone looks a certain way, I automatically shun them. So maybe I need to unlearn some things so that I can experience the things that's going to help me to become a better person. If we're going to move past racism, if we're going to move past hatred, if we're going to move past the diabolical systems that have been set up to set us against one another, we have to unlearn some things. And society, culture, family, music, friends, communities, teachers are all influencers of us learning. And one of the things that we have to be very careful of is that when we learn something, we consider that thing a fact. Now, I don't want you to get me wrong. Learning is imperative. Learning is our measuring tool that measure what we know, what we don't know, what we comprehend, what we need to comprehend, what we have achieved through knowledge, and what we cannot achieve without knowledge. Learning influences our leadership to influence others in a right way. So learning is very important. But when we learn how to be unjust, when we learn how to treat others in ways that we don't want to be treated, or in ways that we don't want our loved ones to be treated, we have to unlearn so that we begin to adapt and apply a new system so that we can have a new perspective and a new mindset. Because one of the things that I have noticed is so many people are upset right now. So many people, they're in a roar right now. They're protesting and they have their signs up and they are truly, truly in the paint with Black Lives Matter. But if we don't unlearn, all it takes is a trigger to pull out what has been there all along. So right now, we are standing up for each other. The other day, everybody turned their profile screens to Black because we want to learn more about Black history and why Black Lives Matter and how we can become more knowledgeable on how to treat one another. But if we still have the learned things that are non-productive and that are hateful and that are racist and that discriminates, if we still have those things, if we're still listening to things that promote that type of behavior, then guess what? All it takes is a trigger, and 1 minute you are protesting and you're fighting for Black lives, and as soon as a Black person ticks you off, then they become undermined again. So we have to unlearn so that we do not turn back to ways that does not benefit us or other people. And it's the same way. We're saying that we want equality and we don't want to be judged or undermined. But if we don't start unlearning some things, all it takes is a trigger, and then we will think all whites are this or all whites are that. We all collectively have to unlearn some things that culture has taught us, that family has taught us, that experience has taught us. We all have to unlearn it if we're going to be evenly on a plain, clean slate to start over. Yes, you can unlearn. I had to unlearn some things that were not beneficial to me. I had to unlearn some things that could have cut in on my success. I had to unlearn some things that did not benefit my life and was not productive to others. I had to learn that it was okay not to be okay, because I was this jolly person, Miss Social Butterfly. So when I had down moments, when I had challenges, when I just wasn't feeling like myself, I could put on a smile in a second, because I didn't know that it was okay not to be okay. So I had to unlearn that mindset. And if I wasn't okay, be upfront and honest and say, hey, I'm not having a good day. It didn't mean I had to treat other people unkind. It didn't mean I had to take out what I was going through on you, but I had to unlearn the stigma that said you had to be okay. And I had to transition that thinking into it's okay not to be okay, right? I had to unlearn that whites looked at me as if I did not matter. And what caused me to unlearn that behavior, when I came in contact with whites that did have my best interests at heart. And not just one white person. I'm talking about many white people. I'm talking about many white people that pushed my business, that patronized me, that took up for me, that showed me things, that mentored me, that looked past this skin tone and saw the heart of what I do and what I stand for. And so that took me taking down those walls, right? Taking down and tearing down those walls and giving them a chance. So I had to unlearn that. I had to unlearn that being pretty is all it took, because I was called pretty so much that I thought pretty was going to take me to the top. I had to make a serious decision, and lipstick and hair and clothes didn't help me. I had to unlearn that mindset and that behavior. I had to also unlearn that where you come from defined where you are going. And so when you think where you come from defines where you're going, if you come from an area that is not positive and productive, you take on a mindset, many of us, that's not positive and that's not productive, because you feel like you have to mimic your surroundings to be cool and to be accepted, and not to think that you're all of that. That is untrue. Where I come from is where I come from, but where I come from does not define me. I come from where I come from, and I'm proud of every person in my neighborhood. I'm not ashamed of them, but they don't represent me. I represent me. God represent me. This is my personal confession. So once I released those thoughts, once I begin to release the thoughts that shaped my mentality, I begin a mind renewal. My mind became renewed, refreshed. The old way of thinking passed away, and behold, new things began to come about in my life. New things begin to come about in my life. And so I want to encourage you that you can unlearn some things, okay? It takes humility. It takes humility to unlearn. It takes not thinking so high of yourself that you cannot be corrected, that you cannot be retaught, that you cannot be guided away from what it was that you thought was truth or facts. It means to lower yourself enough to learn. Lower yourself enough to learn. I didn't say lower your values. I didn't say lower what you thought of yourself, but lower what you think you know. Lower what you think you know about enough to learn. You have to stop believing in that thing. You have to tell yourself, you have to confess to what it is that you need to unlearn. You are not truth. You are not absolute. You are not what I want to represent me in my behavior and my image. You will not brand me. You will not control me. You have to stop believing in that thing. You know how someone can tell you something time and time again, and you believe them and you believe them and you believe them, and they disappoint you every single time, and you stop believing in them. If they call and say, okay, I'm on my way, you don't get ready until they ring the doorbell. Yeah. You have to stop believing in the thing that you need to unlearn. You also have to starve it. Every time something or someone triggers it, you have to starve it by not reacting to it. You have to starve it by not reacting to it. And that takes a great deal of self-control. That takes a strong mental fortitude. You have to change your influence. What has guided you, what has taught you, what has pushed this belief or habit or behavior, you have to take the power away by taking its influence away. So whatever literature, whatever media, music, friends that are for these things, you have to remove yourself long enough to detach from that thing totally, and then you go back and change their minds. But the more you are around it, the more you hear it, the more you engage with it, the more it is going to be embedded in your mindset. If we're going to be one as people, if Black lives are going to matter, if all lives are going to matter, we have to unlearn some things. I am asking you, I am challenging you to challenge yourself, to dig deep inside and evaluate your values, how you treat people, how you receive people, how you receive yourself, how you treat yourself. And I want you to commit to unlearning what's not beneficial. Commit to unlearning what's keeping peace and what's keeping justice outside of our individual walls as well as our world walls. I want you to commit to disengaging, disfellowship with any thought, mindset, or behavior that lowers anyone under you, because we are all equal and we are all privy and deserving of respect, acceptance, and tolerance. We all are owed that because we are all first humans. Love is the key. Let's not miss that. Let love drive you to unlearning what is unloving. Okay, this has been Empowerment Time.